Jay, I wanted to ask if you could sort of fill us in, um, level set the role that LiveRamp is making data-driven CTV happening, particularly for the buy side and replacing legacy upfront TV models. How are you guys? What's your role there?
Yeah, I mean, we are, of course, a neutral player as we don't buy or sell media. So it gives us a unique opportunity to help bring together both the buy and the sell side and the platforms that are powering each side to be able to do more when it comes to data-driven linear TV, addressable TV, and we're now bringing that type of scale and capability to CTV, which does have some nuances, of course, compared to linear TV, but we have that legacy in what we've been doing for years, and now we're rapidly trying to expand that for the marketplace.
How does that expand, or what are the opportunities for you guys?
Right. So if you think about our role as a data connectivity platform, right, in which you have identity and the ability to onboard data or access through the vast marketplace, the LiveRamp data marketplace, and how we are working with platforms that are CTV specific and specialists, as well as programmers and all of their rapidly expanding streaming offerings. We are working on ways in which more data can be applied. So audience driven television has become a big thing. And then it's odd that in the run up to all of this growth in streaming, a lot of it's been done with maybe just age and gender capabilities, age and gender buying, in part because of the difficulty in being able to assess how much audience-based inventory exists in the marketplace. And you want to look at high quality data from reputable data firms, companies like Catalina and Polk and others who have high quality data that's been working in digital and then has been working in addressable linear. How do we make sure that that exists at scale in CTV as well? And we also are seeing a lot of activity with buyers who are looking to create custom audiences. These custom audiences could be based on their own first party data, things like purchase history, or the ability to look at prospects differently than existing customers. We're also seeing a lot of analysis being done with advertisers looking at, well, what I'm buying on linear is yielding me a certain amount of reach and frequency, or it's actually yielding me a certain amount of outcomes, right? So data plus math within LiveRamp TV measures what's actually happening. And we're able to take that intelligence and then help the buyers create a custom audience. So now once you have this custom audience, how do you make it work in CTV, right? That's sort of that last mile question that has been looking at the industry as a big opportunity. And we're now looking at how we can make that happen between buyers and sellers and working with some key partners to do that.
So tell us about you work with the buyers and the sellers. Tell us about the sellers' needs, how they work with you, and some best case uses.
Yeah, so if you look at the way sellers approach right now CTV, it's sometimes as if you're like a major programmer, it's oftentimes the goal is to get to really cross-platform capabilities. So if you look at when you are selling data-driven linear, you're basically applying an audience and getting national scale. When you do addressable on linear with MVPDs, or what's now growing very, very rapidly is programmer addressable, meaning more minutes per hour on addressable applied with partnerships with the MVPDs, you're starting to see some more audience scale there. And that's typically at the household level, right? That's where you're looking at what's the size of households that I can reach with this particular audience. When you apply that to CTV, you have to get to that understanding of impressions, because it's not just about how many households, but because CTV is that wonderful mix of traditional linear and digital, you're able to now look at things like how many impressions can I reach against this particular audience? And from a deduplication standpoint, how much of that is incremental to what's happening on linear? So applying that impression level intelligence is something that we are building out, and we are partnering with all of the big players on the supply side in terms of technology, and even some new players like Publica, who I know was involved in some of the content here.
So Jay, I wanted to ask you about we've talked about walled gardens on the digital side for years, of course. I wonder if there's walled gardens developing around the CTV streaming services, and sort of what challenges there are there for the industry, and perhaps if there can be an identity provider that unifies the data. I guess it's interoperability in the CTV world. Is that possible? Is that important? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's obviously very important. And I think for two main reasons. Number one, if you really want to scale advertiser interest and advertiser buying, then you have to make it so that they don't have to do things 10 different times. The notion of walled gardens in CTV, I guess the parallels are that these are platforms that have content, they have audiences, and they increasingly have their own ad tech stacks inside their capabilities, inside their operations, right? Most all of the major platforms have either acquired, built, or are partnering aggressively, so they have a full ad tech stack inside their walls, if you will. But an advertiser will want to work with multiple platforms and look at, well, what's my total scale against a particular audience, or what's my total reach and frequency when I'm buying across multiple places in CTV? So that is something that has to be addressed, and it is being addressed. I think sometimes we all say, oh my God, this is this big problem. When is it going to get solved? And the reality is it is being solved. And even amongst the sell side platforms themselves, they don't exist with only their content. So multiple TV programmers distribute content into Hulu for programming, for example. Multiple programmers put apps on Roku, for example, right? So when those platforms want to partner with the programmers, you also need to make some identity interoperability work so that that inventory can also be sold at an audience level, right? Because underneath anything audience is going to be some form of identity. And there isn't going to be one identity that rules them all. There's going to be multiple identities, but it's making them work with each other, right? So LiveRamp is an obvious supplier of identity solutions to the marketplace, and we have a very broad footprint across all key components, buy, sell, and platforms. So even when two companies are working off of a different identity, we can make those identities speak to one another. And I think that is critical, and it's happening, and it's increasing in scale every week.
So, Jay, you and I have been talking about advanced TV for a million years, since the invention of color TV, it seems, or something. It's been many years.
Yes.
You and I, and you've been so deeply involved with the industry. What's exciting for you now and looking into the year ahead?
Yeah, I mean, I think any form of tipping point, critical mass, acceleration, whatever adjectives you want to use is happening, and it's happening faster than I think anyone thought it would. So I think what's exciting is that rather than slow playing, and whether it's advertisers looking at this is still test and learn time for me, or the sell side looking at how to leverage the data that they have in a more cautious and incremental way, I think we're looking at all of this at a more scale type of offering in the marketplace. And it's happening at the same time where authentication and consent and privacy is also being contemplated in how everything is happening. So I think there won't be this, oh my God, we have to rush so fast to meet the demand that we don't pay attention to those details. All of those things are happening in conjunction with one another, which I think is really exciting and probably sets up the industry for a record-setting 2021.